You don't realize how wrong you are until the moment you're forced to test your weapon in real life. Picture this. You're standing in a dim hospital corridor, tiles slick with something you pray isn't blood, and the fluorescent lights are flickering just enough to hide the thing dragging its feet toward you. You reach for the weapon you always believed would save you. It feels solid, familiar, comforting. But as the creature lifts its head, its jaw unhinged, its eyes dead but locked on you, you feel something else rising in your chest. Doubt. Because deep down, some part of you senses the truth. Most of the weapons humans rely on, trust, idolize, fantasize about, don't actually work on zombies. Not the way you expect. Not when distance collapses, your pulse spikes, and the margin for error is a single breath. What makes this more terrifying is that these mistakes aren't random. They're predictable, human. And if you don't understand why so many people choose the wrong weapon, you will repeat the same fatal choices. You grip your so-called lifesaver, knuckles whitening, and step backward as the creature stumbles closer. The air feels heavier. The hallway feels narrower. And this is where your real lesson begins. The moment your survival depends on a weapon, people think works, but doesn't. You swing a baseball bat because it feels instinctive, clean, simple, the kind of weapon every survival story tells you will carry you through the first chaotic hours. And for a moment, you believe it. The weight feels right in your hands. The grip is familiar. You tell yourself that all you need is one good hit. But when the zombie lunges into striking range, you discover the flaw everyone ignores. The human skull is not a paper shell. It's a reinforced bone helmet designed to protect the brain, the very target you must destroy to stop a zombie. So when you swing, even with all your adrenaline, the impact doesn't feel satisfying. It feels wrong. The bat vibrates violently through your hands. Your wrists buckle. The sound is dull, not decisive. And instead of dropping, the zombie only stumbles, still reaching for you. You raise the bat again, but your arms are already burning. That's the part no one warns you about. Blunt force trauma drains you faster than fear ever could. With every missed or ineffective strike, exhaustion becomes your real killer. And then comes the final betrayal. On the second or third hit, the bat connects at an angle, catches on bone, and jerks out of your control. Or worse, a cheap wooden bat cracks down the middle, leaving you holding a splintered handle while the undead surge closer. In that instant, you understand the truth. This weapon wasn't built for repeated skull breaking. It was built for games, not survival. And now you're the one who might get knocked out. The chainsaw is the weapon people fantasize about. Loud, brutal, visceral. The kind of tool that turns fear into power, at least in your imagination. But the moment you actually pull the starter cord, the fantasy cracks. The engine sputters, coughs, then finally roars to life, flooding the hallway with noise so violent it feels like the whole world hears you. And that's your first mistake. A chainsaw announces your location to every undead within hundreds of meters. But the real danger comes when you take your first swing. You expect the blade to slice cleanly through flesh and bone. It doesn't. The moment the chain touches solid bone, the saw bucks in your hands, kicking back with a force you weren't prepared for. The chain slows, the motor strains, and then you learn the harsh physics of the tool you trusted. Chainsaws are designed for wood, stable, predictable, unmoving wood. Not a thrashing, lunging corpse trying to tear your face off. The teeth clog instantly with hair, clothing, dried tissue. The torque drops. The chain stalls. And when a chainsaw stalls while embedded in anything, your weapon becomes a dead weight you must wrestle free while the zombie is still very much alive. But even if it keeps running, the blade bites just enough to get stuck. You try to yank it back, but the saw is trapped in the skull, locked like a hooked anchor. And now, you're forced into close contact with the one thing the chainsaw was supposed to keep away from you. The final betrayal comes as the fuel runs low. Engines don't warn you, they just die. One moment you're wielding a roaring monster of steel and teeth. The next, you're holding a silent, 10-pound block of useless metal while an approaching horde closes the distance your weapon stole from you. In theory, the chainsaw makes you unstoppable. In reality, it only makes your death louder. Handguns are the weapon humans trust the most. Not because they're effective, but because movies have lied to you your entire life. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that a single bullet, fired from anywhere, will drop a zombie instantly. But when you finally grip a pistol with shaking hands, adrenaline roaring through your chest, you discover the truth you were never prepared for. Accuracy is a luxury that disappears the moment your life is on the line. Your hands tremble. Your breathing shortens. The front sight refuses to stay still, and the zombie keeps coming. You fire. The muzzle flash blinds you for a heartbeat. The sound detonates in the hallway, deafening, disorienting, bouncing off the walls like an explosion. You don't even know if you hit anything. One of the greatest misconceptions about handguns is that anyone can use them well under stress. In reality, even trained professionals miss the majority of their shots in high adrenaline encounters, and a miss isn't just a wasted bullet. It's a death sentence disguised as a loud warning flare. Every shot you fire becomes a beacon for a dozen more undead, each one drawn to the echoing blast like sharks to blood in the water. But even when you do land a hit, you learn another cruel truth. Handgun rounds are unpredictable. They can deflect off the skull at the wrong angle. They can bury themselves in non-critical tissue. They can pass straight through without destroying the brain. And unless you hit that brain with precision, you've done nothing but irritate the thing moving toward you. Worse, you begin firing faster as panic rises, dumping rounds in a desperate attempt to compensate for your lack of accuracy, burning through your limited ammo supply in seconds. The magazine runs dry. The slide locks back. And suddenly the tool you thought would save you has become a hollow metal frame with no more stopping power than your empty hands. You realize too late that the handgun didn't give you control. It gave you confidence, false confidence, and that is the most dangerous weapon of all. Fire feels like the ultimate solution. Elemental, ancient, final. Somewhere in your mind, you imagine a burning zombie collapsing into ash within seconds, consumed by the same flames you've seen erase buildings, forests, entire landscapes. But when you actually strike that lighter, when the accelerant catches and a zombie erupts into a tower of flame, you learn the horrifying truth. Fire doesn't stop them. Not immediately. Not fast enough. Not before they reach you. The creature staggers forward, arms outstretched, skin blistering and peeling as the flames chew through muscle and clothing. But it doesn't fall. It doesn't even slow down. It just becomes a walking inferno, turning the hallway into a death trap filled with smoke, heat, and embers drifting like burning snow. You're forced to back away, coughing, eyes watering, each breath a mixture of panic and toxic fumes. And that's when you realize the real danger isn't the zombie at all. It's everything else. Fire spreads unpredictably. It climbs walls, crawls across floors, devours oxygen. The creature doesn't just threaten you, it threatens the entire structure you're standing in. While the zombie burns, it continues to move with single-minded determination, igniting curtains, beds, paper, wiring, anything that can catch. In seconds, you find yourself surrounded not by one threat, but by dozens. Smoke thickens, turning the air to poison. Sprinklers trigger, creating steam that scalds your lungs. Flames leap upward, cutting off exits you didn't even know you needed. And through it all, the zombie keeps coming, a burning silhouette in flickering light, proving that the one weapon humans trust to erase danger can actually multiply it. When the creature finally collapses, charred and motionless, you're already on the edge of collapse yourself, trapped in a maze of fire you created. Fire didn't save you. It turned the entire battlefield against you. The crossbow feels like the thinking survivor's weapon, silent, precise, cinematic. You picture yourself calmly taking aim, releasing a bolt, and watching a zombie drop without alerting a single corpse in the area. But when you raise the crossbow for real, You immediately discover that the fantasy was built on convenience, not truth. Your hands are shaking. The zombie is moving. The target, the brain, is smaller than you remembered. And the moment you squeeze the trigger, you realize just how unforgiving this weapon truly is. The bolt fires, but it doesn't strike where you intended. Zombies don't stand still like targets at a range. They lurch, they sway, their heads tilt unpredictably, and even a perfect shot is far from guaranteed. The human skull, especially from the front, is curved and dense. A bolt can deflect. It can embed shallowly. It can strike the wrong angle and fail to penetrate the very tissue you must destroy. But the problem doesn't end with the shot. The real nightmare begins afterward. You only have one bolt loaded. Reloading isn't fast, not under pressure. Your hands feel clumsy. Your breathing quickens. Every second stretches as the zombie closes the gap you thought you'd control. And if you miss, your bolt is now buried somewhere behind the creature, in a wall, or in a place you can't safely retrieve. Crossbows rely on reusable ammunition, but retrieving a bolt means approaching the scene of your own near-death moment. The weapon becomes slow, heavy, a single-shot gamble each time you fire, and that's assuming the crossbow itself holds up. Strings fray, limbs warp, cams misalign. These devices aren't designed for the grime, moisture, or chaos of long-term survival. You discover this only when the string slaps your arm on reload, or when the trigger seizes from dust, or when the bolt wobbles from wear. And as the zombie finally shambles too close for another shot, you realize the cruel truth. The crossbow didn't fail because you used it wrong. It failed because it was never meant to save your life at this distance, in this moment, under this pressure. It's a tool for hunters, not for people fighting things that refuse to die. The machete is the weapon you imagine becoming an extension of your arm. Quick, deadly, elegant in its simplicity. You picture smooth, decisive swings that drop zombies one after another with minimal effort, as if you're cutting through vines in a jungle rather than splitting bone. But when you raise a machete against a real, advancing corpse, everything you thought you knew about this blade unravels in an instant. The first problem hits you the moment your strike lands. Instead of slicing effortlessly, the blade bites into bone and stops cold, wedged halfway into the skull like a knife stuck in a chopping block. You try to yank it free, but bone holds tight. Flesh drags. Momentum dies. The zombie, very much still active, surges forward with your only weapon trapped inside its head. The force you expected to carry through the cut wasn't there, because a machete isn't designed for splitting thick, solid bone. It's designed for vegetation, soft tissue, clean arcs of motion with nothing obstructing the blade. It's not meant for the chaotic, high-resistance impact of trying to disable something trying to tear your throat out. But the deeper truth reveals itself just seconds after the fight begins. Your own body becomes the weakness. Swinging a machete with enough force to even attempt a skull-breaking blow drains your strength almost immediately. Your arms burn. Your grip slips. Sweat blinds you. Every swing becomes slower, less accurate, more desperate. And when fatigue sets in, your chances of landing a perfect strike, the only kind of strike that truly matters, evaporate. Worse, close-range combat with a machete demands proximity. Deadly proximity. You can feel the creature's breath, smell the rot on its skin, watch its fingers clutch for you as you step closer than any sane person should ever be. One mistake, one slip, one moment where your arm doesn't lift fast enough, and it's over. The machete promises control, but in a real encounter it gives you none. It traps you in the one place you should never be, within arm's reach of something that cannot feel pain, cannot be intimidated, and cannot be stopped unless you use more force than most humans can sustain. In the end, the machete's greatest betrayal is simple. It doesn't fail because it's weak. It fails because you are human. The shotgun is the weapon people worship, the legend, the myth, the one tool everyone swears will blast a zombie's head clean off with a single thunderous pull of the trigger. And you believe it, right up until the moment you actually need it. You shoulder the shotgun, heart pounding, sweat slipping down your back as the zombie shuffles into the narrow hallway ahead of you. You inhale. You fire. The recoil slams into your shoulder like a sledgehammer, jarring your stance, making your vision blur for a fraction of a second. And when your sight returns, you realize the shot didn't do what you expected. At close range, the spread isn't wide like the movies show. It's tight, focused, unforgiving. If your aim is off by even a few centimeters, the pellets tear into the wrong part of the skull or miss the brain entirely. At medium range, the spread widens, but each pellet loses force, reducing penetration to the point where they simply graze or embed shallowly in the bone. A shotgun isn't a guarantee. It's a gamble disguised as thunder. You rack the next round, but the noise you just unleashed becomes your next enemy. A shotgun blast is a beacon across open terrain, an alarm bell that calls every undead within a massive radius. Before your next shot, you're no longer fighting one zombie. You're fighting time. And then comes the part no one thinks about: reloading. Shotguns aren't magical bottomless cannons. They require shell-by-shell loading, each one costing precious seconds while fear knots your stomach and your hands shake uncontrollably. You drop a shell, then another. They scatter on the floor like useless coins while the undead crawl closer. And here comes the twist you never saw coming. At extremely close range, a shotgun can overpenetrate, blasting bone fragments, blood, and debris outward in a lethal spray. Those fragments become shrapnel, infection vectors, eye hazards. Every pull of the trigger turns the space around you into a storm of biological landmines. Instead of giving you control, the weapon creates chaos: visual, auditory, physical. And as the next corpse lunges into view, you feel the cruel design flaw of the shotgun. It's a weapon meant to end a threat at a distance, yet zombies collapse distance faster than you can reload. One mistake, one missed shell, one poorly aimed shot, and the weapon that felt like salvation becomes dead weight hanging from your shaking hands. The shotgun didn't fail because it's weak. It failed because it was never built for precision kills on targets that won't stop until their brain is destroyed. By now you've noticed a pattern. Each weapon didn't just fail on its own. It failed you. And not because you lacked courage or strength, but because humans enter a zombie encounter with the wrong expectations, shaped by fiction, adrenaline, and instinct. So in this moment, as you stand in a darkened corridor surrounded by the echoes of your own mistakes, you begin to understand the deeper truth. Weapons don't fail because they are poorly made. They fail because people misunderstand what survival actually demands. You were taught to trust power, noise, spectacle, the illusion that a weapon's intimidation factor translates to effectiveness, but real survival hinges on something far more unforgiving: precision, control, consistency under pressure. The problem begins with human physiology. When adrenaline spikes, your fine motor skills collapse. Your hands tremble, your vision narrows, your heartbeat becomes a drum in your ears. Even the simplest actions, aiming, swinging, pulling a trigger, become distorted, sloppy, unpredictable. In that heightened state, every weapon you thought you could rely on becomes significantly harder to use. Then comes the second layer of illusion. You underestimate the human skull. You think it's fragile because cinema taught you so. But the skull is a reinforced shell evolved to protect the only organ that matters in a zombie confrontation. Blunt weapons bounce, blades stick, bullets deflect, bolts embed shallowly, pellets scatter. Almost none of the tools you instinctively reach for are truly designed to break through bone consistently, cleanly, reliably. Add in environmental chaos, low visibility, tight spaces, uneven ground, noise hazards, and even the best-case scenario becomes a trap waiting to spring. And finally, there is the harsh truth no one wants to admit. Every moment you spend fighting is a moment you are exposed. Weapons that require strength drain you. Weapons that require accuracy punish you. Weapons that create noise doom you. Weapons that demand close contact gamble your life with every heartbeat. When you combine all these factors, the picture becomes clear. Zombie encounters don't punish bad fighters. They punish bad assumptions. Every failure you experienced wasn't random. It was predictable. It was human. And unless you change how you think, not just how you fight, you will fall exactly the way millions did before you. The dead do not evolve. They don't strategize. They don't adapt. But humans must. Now that every illusion has been stripped away, you're left with the question survivors always ask too late. If all the iconic weapons fail, then what actually works? The answer isn't a specific tool. It's a mindset, a framework that separates the living from the soon-to-be dead, because real survival isn't about carrying the strongest weapon. It's about carrying the right one, the one that aligns with the physics of the fight, the psychology of fear, and the limitations of your own muscles and reflexes. The first truth you must accept is this: a good weapon isn't defined by power, it's defined by control. Anything that kicks, bucks, jams, overheats, or traps you in close quarters is a liability masquerading as strength. The second truth is durability. A weapon that chips, bends, breaks, or requires constant maintenance is not a tool. It's a ticking time bomb. You don't want something impressive. You want something that works exactly the same every time you use it. No surprises, no theatrics. Then comes the necessity of silence. Gunfire, engines, explosions, they feel heroic until the world answers back with a chorus of approaching undead. The best weapons don't announce your presence. They erase threats quietly, allowing you to stay ahead rather than be hunted. And there's one more principle, the one almost no one considers until it's too late. Distance is life. Any weapon that forces you into grappling range with something that cannot feel pain, cannot be intimidated, and will not stop is a weapon designed to betray you. Real survivors choose tools that extend their reach, not shorten it. They learn to assess an environment, not dominate it. They prioritize stamina over style, simplicity over spectacle, realism over wishful thinking. And once you begin to see weapons through that lens, everything changes. You stop fantasizing about the weapon that makes you look powerful and start valuing the weapon that keeps you alive the longest. That shift from fantasy to function is what separates you from the countless humans who trusted the wrong tools and paid the price. Survival isn't about finding the perfect weapon. It's about becoming the kind of person who understands why certain weapons fail and why others never will. You think you finally understand survival. You've learned why weapons fail, why instincts betray you, why every swing, shot, and strike must be deliberate. The hallway is silent now. No chainsaws screaming, no gunshots echoing, no flames crackling out of control. Just your breath, steady for the first time, and the faint hum of lights overhead. You adjust your grip on the weapon you now trust, the one chosen through reason instead of fantasy. And for a moment, you believe the lesson is complete. But then, you hear it, a soft scrape behind you, slow, dragging, close. Your body freezes. Not because the sound frightens you, but because of what you suddenly realize. Even now, after everything you've learned, you're still relying on something far more fragile than any weapon. Confidence. The one weapon humans cling to more than guns, fire, or blades. The one weapon that shatters the instant reality shifts. You turn, expecting the threat to be small, manageable, something you can dispatch with your newfound clarity. But the shadow that steps into the corridor isn't alone. More figures emerge behind it. 5, 10, maybe more. Their silhouettes blur together in the flickering light, all silent, all listening, all converging on the sound of your heartbeat. And in that instant, every survivor learns the final truth. Weapons don't save you. Choices do. And the dead don't need to be fast to corner you. They just need you to believe you're safe. You grip your weapon tighter. You measure the distance. You feel the walls closing in. And as the first corpse lunges into the light, you understand the real cliffhanger of survival. The realization that there is one more weapon people trust more than any other. A weapon so dangerously overrated that it has ended more humans than zombies ever have. Hope. But that is a lesson for another night.